happy with the Lord at home, with her husband, with her loved ones. And so it's, yes, it's a time of separation and sorrow, but it's also a time of homecoming for her, and happiness and joy and lasting peace. When we were putting together the prayer service, Clayton wondered aloud whether we would have music or not. He said, "We don't have Mr. Wipa anymore." I know, but you know what? Mr. Wipa was, I can feel his spirit over here, and you know, you did a beautiful job. And so we definitely had to have music, and God bless you for that. It was very beautiful.
I'm not a good speech writer. I'm not a good writer either. So what I did was I put down some notes, and I'll just ad-lib this thing as best I can. I went fishing this morning with a good friend of mine who's in the audience, and he said I should move back here. I grew up here. I went to college in the mainland. I moved back here for about 5 years, and I've been in the Los Angeles area for the last 12. And I realized when he told me I should move back here that the last 5 times I've been back here, 3 of them, I've been in this room. So instead of doing a speech where everybody gets sad and whatnot, I'm going to try and touch on notes that I thought were funny about Grandma. So, before I do that, I want to go over the names of the grandchildren. I'm not going to do the great-grandchildren because I'm going to screw that up and forget somebody. But there are 12 of us. I'm the oldest. Brent's here. Buddy, my sister Regan's not here. Denby's here. Chris, I didn't see Chris. Chris, I don't think is here. My brothers Matt and Garth aren't here. Tristan's here. Allie's here. Tani's not here, right? And Nicola's not here. So anyway, one of the funny things I think all of us grandkids can remember about Grandma is a lot of times we'd go over to her house and sometimes spend the night, sometimes not. We'd have dinner there. And usually it'd be at like 6 or so. So we'd have a huge dinner. She'd always have a lot of food. And whether we were spending the night there or not, if we were there at around 9:30 or 10 o'clock, she'd fire up the waffle iron. And you know, every one of us liked it. And I don't know what made her do that, but it was something to look forward to. And that's one of the things I remember from when I was a kid. And okay, so anyway, that's one of the things I remember when I was a kid. The second thing I want to talk about is her name, and I thought this was funny. Her name was Marciana. Nobody ever called her that I know. On the program it says Mercy. I've heard people call her that. Marcy. I heard people call her that. When we were all kids, it was Grandma Marcy D. And it wasn't until I was like 10 or 11 years old that I realized that was not one word. I thought it was always one word, but all of us kids called her that. My kids called her Little Grandma because my mom was so tall. And a lot of the family members that are older than me called her Mabos, right? I don't know what that means. I never knew what that meant. A couple times I asked her about it, and you know, she never answered me. She just gave me a scowl. You know, like she didn't like being called that. And those who know me from when I was a kid can understand what I understand about, you know, not being wanted to call a certain nickname. So anyway, that's the nickname why I made. Another thing I remember about Grandma is food. She didn't do all the cooking. My grandfather did some of the cooking. But one story I do remember. My grandfather used to have a boat. We had a bunch of boats, but when I was about 12 years old, he picked me up. It was he, my grandmother, and me. It was just the 3 of us. We dragged the boat all the way over to Kona. we stayed at the Kona Surf. I guess there was the sister hotel of the Naniolo. And we went out one day, we caught a bunch of fish, and we were planning on going out that evening. So we brought the fish to Grandma, and I guess she was going to cook it. I didn't know she was going to cook it. I went downstairs to the pool to fool around, and I came back up, and I was in the elevator with a bunch of tourists. And the minute the elevator door opened, I'm like, holy crap, what is that smell? And then, I looked at the tourist people, and they were like, what the hell? So I go back to the room, and there's Grandma. She's got this small rice cooker fired up right next to the sink in the bathroom, and she had this. She was cooking this kava, and it stunk to high heaven. And I told her, Grandma, these guys. I was in the elevator with some tourists, and they may grumble to the hotel. And she said something to the effect of, too bad for them. So, another funny story, well, at least I think it's funny, happened at my house kind of recently, in the last few years or so. My wife is from California, so she's not really, used to the local cooking. So anyway, I told my grandmother that I wanted to eat. I can't even remember what it was, but it had the fish sauce in it. So anyway, my wife wasn't there at the time. And so she starts cooking, and I know what it smells like. But my wife didn't really know what it smelled like. So I'm sitting there, I'm watching her, I'm learning how to cook this dish. I can see the flies in the screen door. And then I hear the garage door open. And most of you haven't been to my house, but there's a door that comes in from my garage into the house. The door opens, I see my wife come in, and she goes, what the hell is that smell? And then I'm like that, and she's all, kind of embarrassed about it. But it turned out good, I liked it. Anyway, in the last couple of years, Grandma would visit, after Grandpa left. She'd visit the family in California. She'd spend a week with Auntie Danette, or a week with my mom, a week with Aunt Sandy. And starting a few years ago, she would spend not quite a week with me, but as much time as she could. And I learned a lot of idiosyncrasies that she used to have when she stayed with me. And one of them was like, I'd have to make coffee like once every 2 hours. And it's only like 2 cups. And she doesn't want to use a regular coffee cup that I have. I gotta get out my china. With a saucer too. So there was that. And she would like to bake these biscuit things. And the kids like it. And one time she asked me, do you have any jelly? I'm like, yeah, I got like, strawberry or whatever. She goes, you don't have guava jelly? I'm like, no, where do you think you are? So anyway, after she left, I made it a point to get that stuff and just keep it, just in case she came back, because I didn't want to hear what is this, stuff. Another thing she'd like to do is go out to eat. So we'd go out to lunch or dinner or whatever. And she would, I tell her, just order whatever you want. And she would order whatever she wanted. A lot of times she would take like 3 or 4 bites and say, oh, that's a lot of food. And then, when it was time to go home, she would, ask the server to box up her stuff. And you could tell when she was at my house because my refrigerator was full of these styrofoam containers. She would take this food home and never finish it. Needless to say, my dog got so fat that she was over because I would feed the leftovers to the dog. Let's see here. The last time she came over was the funniest because she had like a walker. She was like, she had a hard time going up the stairs and a hard time sitting, because I have like bar stools at my house. So have a hard time getting up on the bar stool, so I'd help her, you know, get her stuff. When she was thirsty, I'd say, Grandma, you want some water? And I'd get her the water. You want something, you know, it's coffee, I'll get her the coffee. You hungry, I'll make something to eat. And the funny thing is, you know, I would like wait on her, and I'd say, you know, Grandma, I'm gonna go to work. My wife Chris would be there, and so I'd go to work, and then when I came back, I started, you know, doing the same thing, you know, getting stuff for her, helping her up the stairs, and Chris goes, "Why are you doing that?" I'm like, you know, because she's, you know, has a hard time getting around. She goes, "You know, the minute you left, she went outside and swept the whole backyard." I'm like, "No." But when I found that I didn't have the heart to, you know, to stop helping her out, I just, you know, pretended like nothing happened. She was only there for a couple of days, so it was no big deal. But anyway, on a more serious note, you know, I think on behalf of all the grandchildren and all the great-grandchildren, we're going to miss her a lot. It's, you know, it's a tough thing. But on a funny note, and I think it's funny. If you guys think it's, you know, not funny, that's all right. But on a funnier note, I want to say something to my grandfather. Grandpa, your vacation is over.